Hi, everybody. My name is Miles Wallace, and I'm with Peak Performers. We're a nonprofit staffing and recruiting agency that helps professionals with disabilities find jobs and advance their careers. We also help clients find great talent as well. And I'm joined today by Brian Crawley. Brian, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks, Miles. Uh, I am the director of client engagement with Peak Performers, and I have worked in and around the HR and talent acquisition professionals for about 15 years now, directly with talent acquisition for the last 13 plus.
So I imagine you probably hear the same refrain that I do. So I go to job fairs all the time and I talk with the other recruiters, I talk to the other HR managers, and person after person tells me the similar refrain of people just don't want to work anymore. Do you hear that from your hiring managers as well?
Yes, it's a popular refrain in recruiting circles with polite conversation for sure. This is a result of just a fatigue of the last 2.5 to 3 years, and just all the change that's occurred in that time frame. But the interesting thing is that if you look back over the course of history and just like the written word that we can go out and search on the internet, this is not something that's new.
Speaking of which, I'm going to throw up on the screen right here just some newspaper clippings mentioning this specific phrase of people don't want to work anymore. Would you mind reading a couple of these to us?
In the archives that can be searched, this quote has been found dating back to as late as the late 1800s. So um, since really we've created archives that we can go out and find newspaper clippings in, you can go back and find the opinion that people just don't want to work anymore, and really almost verbatim. That quote kind of persists over time. Quotes out of a paper in 1922. It's because nobody wants to work anymore. It again, exact quotes. Nobody wants to work anymore. 1937, same in 1940. 1952, everyone was getting too darn lazy and nobody wants to work anymore. We look back to 1979, just a quoted a disgusted businessman. Nobody wants to work anymore. And yeah, I think when you look at those opinions over the course of time in the time frames in which they're plucked out of history, and there was probably headwinds of change during those time periods as well, right? I think when we look at more recent times, 2006, this is just before the Great Recession, there are hiring booms going on all over the place, and especially in the tech fields. This is post tech boom. It was hard to find people in those areas, and the employees or the associates had more power and leverage.
So you bring up a really important point right there, and that is the concept of hiring fatigue. It's estimated right now that the average person stays in a single role between 1 and 3 years. And realistically, what we see in staffing is that it's more towards the one side of that. And that's not a lot of time. So talk to me about the hiring fatigue that some of the people that you're talking to are experiencing.
Well, sure, and yeah, I saw a statistic here just recently that it takes 46 job board applies in order to actually have one person start in a role. And that's not because people aren't qualified or willing to work. When there's a lot of choice, it makes it harder to make your job the shiniest thing they see all day. And when you look at fatigue, so just the amount of change that's happened in the last 2 or 3 years and how we went to being job poor to extremely job rich and candidate poor, it's very challenging to get up every day and feel really good about these people that you have to come in and interview, and you hope that everyone shows up for the interviews, and you hope that the people that are off the job start in the job, which is pretty remarkable this last 2 years how much more the choices in the market has affected behaviors with the candidates, and I think that talent acquisition professionals, hiring managers, and HR professionals trying to solve these problems with the toolkit that they're used to working with has become extremely challenging.
So, what would you say to an employer that has that sneaking suspicion in the back of their head that nobody wants to work for me anymore?
Talking to a large variety of people within the organization and outside the organization in terms of what makes our job and our place of business a great place to work and be versus what else is out there and available to available talent. And I think that a big part of what creates issues with being able to find talent and bring them on board is just being that nimbleness of organizations to quickly offer a job and bring someone on board from start to finish. Talent doesn't Great talent isn't available very long on the market these days, for sure.
In general, what would you say has changed, and what are people looking for right now that make them want to work for you?
The advent of the pandemic showcased that many organizations and many roles were able to be done remotely. And if you're an organization that requires either hybrid or in-person work, and maybe your competitors are offering full remote work, that's going to be a very significant challenge to overcome, at least in today.
What do you see coming down the line in 2023, and what do you see changing?
I think that we'll probably see more of the same. We've seen a lot of the large tech firms have significant movement in their talent, but overall, when you look at the entire breadth of the United States and just talent overall, it's a pretty small ripple in a very big pond. And that talent will redisperse pretty quickly as it's ready to get back into it. But I think that what we'll see is just there'll continue to be challenges. And I think organizations will continue to adapt, find better ways to get closer to the talent quicker. I think that's really the theme we're seeing today, that the organizations that have found a way to make a good connection with the talent base that they want to tap into and bring them into their organizations very quickly are having the most success right now.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Brian. This has been really insightful to have this conversation. Again, this has been Miles Wallace and Brian Crawley from Peak Performers. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.